G'day guys, thought we'd do a video about ordering pixels or blinky supplies. Now there's lots of discussions that normally come up about where's the best place to purchase them, what's the best type to get, who's the best vendor, etc. I'm not going to answer those questions. This video is probably more aimed towards somebody which is looking at getting into this hobby. They've heard, to buy your pixels from, say, a Chinese vendor. We're going to go about discussing that, how we go about ordering pixels directly from our Chinese vendor. A couple of tips and tricks which we've picked up along the way. And also this video is probably going to be more towards purchasing pixels when you're in Australia. So our US friends and our UK friends, etc., feel free to watch along. I'll have some little topics about purchasing from the US vendors, but this is primarily going to be about purchasing pixels in Australia. So let's get into it. So one of the big topics which comes up is what pixel are best. Are they 5 volt pixels? Are they 12 volt pixels? Are they bullet style? Are they square style? Regulated 12 volt pixels, resistor type 12 volt pixels? I'm not going to go into any of that sort of details. This is just more of, okay, you've made your decision what type of pixels that you want to purchase, where are we going to get them from? We will touch on a couple of different varieties just for those people which are curious, so we know what we're talking about. These are referred to as a bullet pixel or a round pixel because they look like a bullet. These are a square because they're in a square casing. Now there's different applications for these. Generally the square pixels are being commonly used for megatrees. This is some megatree strip being pushed into the holding strip for making a megatree. Generally that's what the square pixels being used for, but people are now starting to use more and more round pixels on that. Round pixels are generally being used more for house outlines or chloro props. You can use square for house outlines, depends on the how you're going to hold them. Now this is a chloro prop made from one of the vendors. These obviously are suited to the bullet pixels because we need to be able to push the pixel through the chloro. If it was a square pixel, it wouldn't quite push through as far, as you can see. So that's all we're really going to talk about regarding the different type of pixels and where we can get them, or the different type of pixels. I said hopefully this video is going to be more focused on how do we actually purchase them. Saying that, there's different ways that you can purchase pixels. You can purchase them in 100 count or 50 count strings. So that's a generic 100 count string which you'd get from your vendor. There's another one here being illuminated up just with a generic pixel tester, or you can get custom count pixels. There's applications for both. That's a string of 85 which I had custom ordered. Also we're going to talk about, just touch on, there's different type of connectors that you can get. This is not a definitive video, and just to make people aware, there is two common main types of connectors. Now there's connectors on our what we refer to as a pigtail. Now these pigtails are just a joiner that most people generally use from their pixel controller into the leads, or the first the input of their pixel string. So you can see here we've got the pixels going into this star, we've got an input coming in, etc. Hey, we've got a spider. So there's generally two types of connectors. We've got the Ray Wu style connector, which was quite popular a few years ago because Ray Wu was a popular vendor, and that was the pigtail that they offered, the connector. You can also get now, which is probably coming more of a standard, And if I was going to be ordering pixels and I didn't have any previous pixels with RGB connectors, you can get what's called an X connect pigtail. Now they're slightly different, so this is what's referred to as an X connect. More and more vendors are keeping this type of connector. They're different, so you can't connect one to the other. So just be aware, if you're going to stick with one, just run with it. I would probably nowadays, if ordering a whole new display, I'll be possibly pushing more towards the X connect type connector. Nothing wrong with the Ray Woos. I've personally got all Ray Woos. They're all fine. It's just pros and cons. We're going to just touch on regarding when ordering your pixels, it's probably advisable to order your pigtails, and also think about ordering some some generic made extension leads up. Now you can use these too. These are available in different lengths. You can get anything from a couple of feet, 5 feet, 7 feet, 10 foot, etc., which will extend from your pixel controller off to your props, or for daisy chaining props together. I use these quite commonly for daisy chaining props quite together. You can make your own leads up though. You can get T-joiners also for power injection points. They're all available on those websites. So probably one of the big things I'd like to touch upon is actually ordering custom count pixel strings. And you might go, why? I'm just going to order 100, my 100 count, and I'm going to cut my own. I'm going to cut them to all lengths that I want. For argument's sake, this prop here takes 40 pixels. I'm just going to simply, like I've done before, is cut it, put my own input in, or cut it off, etc. And then I'm going to solder those leads on, or solder the pigtails on, and stuff like that. That's not a problem, and that's generally the way most people do it. Some people can also order their pixels without any joiners on them. So yeah, that's not a problem. Personally, it's a very time-consuming practice. If you're going to be ordering pixels and you know that the props that they're going to go into, you might want to consider ordering custom count. In particular, if you've got a lot of one type of prop, you might want to. So if we were going to have 10 of these stars in our display, I would order 10 40 count pixel strings, so I can just simply push them in to these props and they're done. I'd also even consider ordering a different length input or output, depending on what prop I was going to daisy chain it onto. So a little bit of thought before ordering your pixels and what type of props that you're going to put them into can possibly save you a lot of time. The downside is it is a little bit more expensive, a couple of more dollars a string possibly, which can be a consideration for some people. But personally, I would rather spend the time doing something else. Hey, this is just my opinion. Some people love soldering. They love the DIY, full DIY aspect of this hobby. So that's not a problem. Another thing which I was going to touch on also, probably we're going to jump on some websites in a minute and have a look. But there's a couple of different ways that you can order pixels. Most commonly, people who are going to in particular, again, this is for Australian consumers, are purchasing them from generally direct from the Chinese vendors, which are overseas, and we've been paying air freight on receiving our pixels, which is okay if you want them quickly, but there is another way which I've been ordering them lately, and that has been ordering them from one of the vendors which has been offering a slower shipping service via boat. Now, some of the US vendors are also offering this, and there is considerable savings to be made on the freight. So it's something you want to consider about. I personally, if you're ordering, say, earlier in the year, possibly around that June, July mark, and you're happy to wait that 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, possibly, to order your pixels, for your pixels to arrive after ordering, consider the boat option. However, if you need them in a hurry, you might want to pay the air freight for that. But saying that, one of the vendors now is offering Pixels, and they have a Australian-based distribution network, so to speak, on standard count pixels. So if you was after some standard count 100 pixels or 50 count pixels, they've got them available for fast shipping in Australia. I think about 3 or 4 days, maybe less, depends on where you are. Look, I'm in regional Australia, so it does take things a little bit longer, obviously. So that might be another option. There's also another couple of Australian-based vendors, which we'll talk about later on when we jump on the computer. So in a nutshell, there's a couple of different ways that you can order. You can just order 100 count strings direct from the vendor's AliExpress websites, etc., or you can go for that more of a personal touch, I'd say, is ordering them direct from the direct custom strings counts to suit your props from the vendor, and we'll go about talking about that in a minute. So that's enough of me waffling on about pixels and stuff like that. We'll actually jump on the computer and have a look at a couple of websites and show you how easy the process is, because it can be a little bit daunting, in particular if you haven't done it before. So we want to order some pixels. Most questions that we get is, where do we purchase them from? Now, you'll probably see them advertising on eBay and Amazon and stuff like that, but we generally recommend to purchase direct from specific type of suppliers which have been supplying people in this hobby over a couple of years. So one of the really good pieces of information available on the Oz Christmas Lighting website, there is a wiki, like an information source, and there's a list of lighting suppliers. So if we scroll down to the RGB and Pixel Suppliers, these are the common ones which people within the hobby are using: the Rgb, Scott LED, E-Top, the Zangs and Zangs, and Daniel Zhang from Shenzhen. So that's got lists to their website. So what I generally would say to people is peruse their website. So here's the E-Top website from AliExpress. You can have a look on there. This is probably one of the easier AliExpress vendor sites to look at. We have the Rgb store. His website is getting easier to navigate. And Scott LED, now that's done through Alibaba, which is probably a little bit harder to order directly from, but there is ways around it. And as I mentioned, this is more of an Australian-based point of view from how to purchase pixels. Alan Hansen from Hansen Electronics sells 5-volt pixels. He doesn't have any 12-volt stuff at the moment, so he has them available. So if you want to directly purchase 5-volt pixels from an Australian based vendor, they're still Chinese pixels. He's a reseller of one of these. Well, there. So you can, a couple of different ways. If you're ordering those generic 50 count or 100 count pixels, you could come to their website and say, they've got the most common ones there available. We touched on before, the squares and the bullet or round types. And so if we just click on this one here, the E-Top website does give us the options of which connector we'd want. Remember, I was talking about probably that X-Connect connector is the most popular type for people starting off nowadays. Notice they've got free shipping on that, because I'm not sure what's going on there, because they've got a shipping price there. Generally, most people order not from the website. They will contact the vendor specifically and go about it that way. But you can order via the website. Just know when you do add it and go through checkouts on AliExpress, it does put GST on the end. And now we're going to touch on import duties and GST probably a bit later on, discussing in this video. So we can do the same on our Rgb site. You can, he's got, again, pixels available, very similar. He's got 3,000 counts, or You can buy them, 1,000 count or singular one, 1,050 counts. There's lots of variations in that available. Most people are still using WS2811 pixels, so you can sort of look on his products. They can be a bit tricky to navigate. Sometimes I've found. Which what's down in one of them, but most of these links on the front page there will get you to where you want to go. The eTop site, these products. Website is a lot easier to find. So, you've decided I want to contact the vendor direct. I don't want to go through the AliExpress method. Now, this can be a little bit daunting at first for people new. Generally, what the process is, you email your vendor, your preferred one. So you've looked at them, those probably 3 or 4 different ones. Now, it's probably a bit different. I'm just going to say a bit different for Hanson Electronics. Generally use his website and purchase that way. It's more these Chinese-based vendors. Now, probably one of the pros to it is ordering direct via email. You may be able to save a few dollars on the freight component. In particular, what I touched on before is possibly looking at using that slower boat purchasing method. So I generally just send them an email direct to the. I get their email address back from, they're listed from the Oz Christmas Lighting Wiki lighting suppliers. All their email addresses are located there. One of the questions that does pop up all the time is, can someone give me the Ray Wu email or Scott Led email? They're all listed there in the on the ACL wiki. So I'll contact them, and this is just a generic email copy which I dragged out a while ago. Hi, the vendor. Hope you're well. Can you please provide a quote for the following custom pixel strings? Remember I talked about you can order your custom strings. So I was after 16 of 85 pixels per string. Now this was for a mega tree that I was making. I was trying to be as specific as I can with my vendor, because sometimes you can get that language barrier. We're English, they're Chinese. Most of them are pretty good, but there can be that little bit of a language barrier. Just got to be mindful of. So I was trying to be as specific as I wanted. I wanted 12 volt DC, WS2811, bullet pixels with black wire. I specified the wire, and one important thing is I specified the pixel spacing between each node, not the wire length. You want to specify the distance between each pixel, because some of the Coro props really do need that that 4-inch or 10 centimeter distance between each pixel, not just the wire length, because some of the wire is used when they're connecting them up to the boards within the pixel. So I've specified it out there, and I've actually on this one here I gave a link. This was using the eTop, which I purchased from. Gave a similar product which I was going to order from, so that was just a copy and paste link. And I also specified the connectors, and I specified I wanted 300 mils of wire from the input connected to the first pixel, so I wanted a long lead-in for these ones, because this was for a mega tree and my controller was going to be moved a little bit further away from the base of the mega tree, saved me having to use some additional joiners. And also then I just asked for some generic leads as well. Again, I gave a link from their website, and then I just asked for the following, can you please give the following freight options, air shipping or boat shipping, and I gave my delivery address so that they could work out the costs associated with where to send it. Another method of describing what you want from your vendor when you're emailing to attach a spreadsheet with the quantity of the item, the item type, the model. I'll generally grab the model, say from their website if they have it listed. So if you just jumped onto that Ray Wu site and get out of that. They'll list in the specs a part number. Then I'll copy that in. So it gives them that link back to their own products, and put that into that website. And then this again was for a custom order for the count and length, etc. So I made those amendments from the description for their website in red, so it's quite clearly identifiable. And again, I gave that AliExpress link to their website so they could do a bit of a cross reference. So I've used both methods before. Some people prefer to use a website, but some people just prefer to write it out in the email. And generally then you'll get back an invoice, a pro forma. We'll have, now this is for a different one. This was when I was ordering 40 count pixels. So I think it was for those stars, which I mentioned earlier in, and I wanted a longer input lead on those ones, and I wanted 10. I've deleted the prices because the pricings will vary, depends on the time. Is listed out the number of extensions I ordered, and also I wanted just some female pigtails in that order. And then it'll have the shipping cost by sea, because that was the way that I chose to go for that one, and it was cheaper to obviously use the sea method. So once you've got that back, you'll have the option then to PayPal them, send the money by PayPal. Now this is where, personally, when I was doing this the first time, I was a bit unsure about this, but those listed vendors from that ACL wiki are what most people are using. Bear in mind, I wouldn't send it as friends and family. I'll touch on that a little bit later on, but send it just as a normal business transaction. And they'll say you'll get a shipping date. That's 7 days after your payment. They'll generally will send you out a tracking number a little bit quicker after you've made the payment. Doesn't hurt to email them to ask where it is if you don't get it. Open communications is the way to go. Just don't leave it months and then go, oh, where are my pixels? If you don't see it within that period of time, just ask the question. Most of these vendors are more than willing to communicate with you and let you know what's going on. If you don't like to do that, you can still go back and just order directly from the AliExpress website. You can just follow through that checkout. It will cost you a little bit more, possibly, but then AliExpress are pretty good about if you don't receive your goods. So it's probably a little bit higher risk, possibly, ordering them via the email instead of the AliExpress. Personally, I've been ordering via email, and quite a number of people via email within this hobby for quite a period of time. So it's just a personal preference. So that's essentially how I go about ordering not only custom count strings, but also for generic type strings as well from my Chinese vendors. Just bear in mind, in particular, remember, if you're Australian based, one of the vendors is offering products listed, I think they're under sale items. They're based in Australia, some of them, but email the vendor and ask them, and they'll give you the options. Now these Australian based supplies will arrive a little bit quicker, but I'm thinking if you're ordering earlier on as part of planning your display, think about your freight options. Now, talking about freight options and stuff like that, in particular within Australia, just be mindful that there can be some import and duty costs associated when you're purchasing products overseas. Go to the relevant government websites about that. If you Google it, you'll find it. Just bear in mind though, generally when you're for over $1,000 Australian, not US, over $1,000 Australian, including postage, you can be required to pay import and GST fee, etc. So just bear in mind with that. I generally personally
keep my orders below that 1,000 mark. It's each to their own. You've got to start weighing it off if you're making a very large order and possibly considering saving a lot of money because you're making a large, say 10,000 pixel bulk order, with that slower shipping. That offset for that purchase price may be okay by having to pay those import fees. As I said, I'll specify this video more towards Australian people purchasing pixels. I hope I've covered both things. Ask questions as well. Go to Oz Christmas Lighting. I know a lot of people are using Facebook as well. Now there's the Oz Christmas Lighting Facebook page to get specific Australian information. If you post in some of the popular Xlight support video, and where do I buy my pixels from, and if you're an Australian purchaser, you're going to start getting all these US-based pixel vendors, which you can buy from, but you're almost paying double freight because they're importing them in and then they're going to have to ship them out. Some of them do ship direct, but if you're starting to go down that hassle, you might as well just personally just go straight to the Chinese vendor yourself. Recently, now this is 2001 video, there was some pixel failures that got discussed during the 2020 holiday light season. There is a really good Existential video which I'd recommend anybody to watch. That's available from the xlights.org. Click on that one. We should be able to go to videos.xlights.org. It's available from the Xlights website. If you search on that page for the Pixel Survey report, watch it. Lots of great information by Bill Porter. He's got a lot of knowledge. Also, it has been discussed, some of the US-based guys have been making available, sorry, flicking between pages here, that's going to be very annoying for everybody. There's a pixel report failure page, which it's got some good purchasing tips and stuff like that on possibly. I'm going to put all these links in the bottom of the video before. Now, this is something for new, www.pixel.report. It's more for US-based people, I think. They're just looking to talk about people thinking about the quality and safety of our pixels, and some really good points here. What you should look for in a vendor, don't always look for that cheapest price. You get what you pay for. Everyone will say, I can get pixels for 18 cents a pixel, 20 cents a pixel, 22, 25 cents a pixel US, thereabouts. Not always the cheapest. That's all I was going to say. Ensure your vendor has history selling. Well known. Those ones from that Australian Christmas Lighting wiki page are quite well known. They've got here, be cautious buying direct from China. I'm not too sure about that. In particular for us from Australians, this is more for US based because they can purchase a lot of their pixels direct from resellers in the US. It can get a bit tricky if you're getting a lot of failures. Here's a good one though. Do not pay with PayPal, friends and family. It's a business. They're running a business. Use the relevant avenues, and there's some other information about when they're trying to find out about pixel phase. Now, this was because there were some issues that come out of 2020. There wasn't one vendor in particular. It's just more information is the better for anybody. That's my personal opinion. So that's my thoughts about ordering pixels. Hopefully I've touched... Oh, one last thing I was going to touch. If there's any of the US guys have got to the end of this video, there's lots of US vendors which are resellers of the Chinese vendors. They're not manufacturing these pixels in America that I know of. They're purchasing them, in bulk and resell them. Some of the popular ones which I've seen up now. I apologise for anyone I've forgotten. I'm going to put some links in the video below. Wired Watts. Now, if you Google most of these places, I have never purchased any pixels from these suppliers, so I can't say what it's like. Like, I'm in Australia, so we generally purchase directly from the Chinese vendors. Wired Watts, Wally's Lights, Holiday Lighting Shop, Matt's Designs. He does not only props like Megatree Props. He also sells pixels, DIY LED Express, RGB Man, Gilbert Engineering offer pixels as well as Coro Props. Boscoyo, sorry Boscoyo guys. I'll just add you in there. They offer some pixels, I believe. There's like lots of others. I'm sorry if I've forgotten. Like, I've got limited knowledge on this because I'm not USA based, but there's a couple other sites around. So if you're in the US, you might want to consider purchasing direct from one of those US vendors. So that's just my thoughts on purchasing pixels. Probably one of the biggest things. Think about going to the Oz Christmas Lighting website, ask some questions, think about how you can save money on freight. You're probably not going to save a lot of money on the actual pixels themselves. Look, there is cheaper pixels out there. There's cheaper 5-volt ones and stuff like that, but I've got no experience with them. Quite a lot of people do use them, but I'm talking about the pixels that I use, which I've got experience with. So think about how you can save on freight. It's a cost saving. Think about saving yourself some time ordering those custom count strings. I know it's one of the vendors in particular is offering. He has some of the Coro Props even listed. If I can find them, yeah, he doesn't sell the Coro Prop itself, but this is for a large Bosco miniature, and he's already got the specs. Probably from when people have already ordered these pixels and they've kept them, and they're making them available. So if making it a bit easier for you. He's got some specs on his website, so they're used to dealing with making custom count strings. All right, guys. Hopefully, I've covered over my experience regarding purchasing pixels, in particular from Australia. Now, this video has been done on March 21. Things change, but hopefully it steers you in the right direction. All right, guys. Bye.